Konnichiwa, News Watch Boy INCOG, Baron Rush video, and today guys we're doing another video on Target Kun's channel. This one is called Fate Lord the Tale of Calamity Jane. So the reason why I wanted to do this is because in recently, I think it was like was it last month? No. Because we just pulled Space Ishtar. It was on Space Ishtar's banner for Saber Wars. I think it was like 2 weeks ago or something like that on FGO. We end up pulling on the channel. I did my pulls. It's a video up on the channel for my pulls for Space Ishtar. We end up getting MP1 Space Ishtar, and we end up getting MP2 Calamity Jane. So I was like, we pulled her. Let's see what her lore and stuff is about. You know what I'm saying? We haven't done these lore videos, stuff like that in a minute. So you know what? We're going to get back on that track. You know what I'm saying, guys? So if you guys like this, go ahead and stop liking the video. Share the video, share good stuff, favorite material, etc. And yeah, guys. So let's get right into this. So play.
Check out today's work of fan art. It's an adorable, albeit melancholic Arcuade. Aw, she's just a lonely vampire who yearns for love and companionship, but can't have it due to her bloodlust. A lot of people fondly remember her granny skirt, so it's nice to see here. Thank you so much, AJ Anthony. In the mid-1800s, America is going through its frontier days, nostalgically referred to as the Wild West. On the 1st of May, 1852, a girl named Martha Jane Canary is born to her parents Robert and Charlotte Canary. She grows up in the town of Princeton, Missouri, becoming the eldest of 6 children. Both Robert and Charlotte are known for their involvement in petty crimes, always struggling to make ends meet. This leaves Jane to enjoy the purity of the outdoors, and she learns to ride horses at a young age. Perhaps in pursuit of gold, her family sets out toward Virginia City, Montana, traveling by wagon for 5 months. Jane, now in her teenage years, takes this time to hunt alongside the men, proving herself to be a courageous rider and talented markswoman. Precise accounts of these events are mostly unsubstantiated, a product of Jane's own exaggerated tales. Indeed, the woman's legend is a blend of confirmed documents and her own romanticized autobiography.
Wait, hold up. Pause. I just realized something, guys. I think I probably said this on stream playing FGO. Just realized something with Calamity Jane. She's an archer, but she shoots a gun. She's an archer, but she shoots a gun. None of this at all, right? She's doing this. Just want to make sure. All right, let's get back to it. So, play.
True or not, however, the power of a legend remains uncontested. By the year 1866, Jane's family finally reaches Montana. The journey turns tragic right at the end, as her mother passes away in Blackfoot. Finding this venture to be a bust, their family migrates again in the summer, this time to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Bust.
Again, travel condemns the family, claiming the life of her father, leaving Jane in charge of protecting her siblings. As the head of the household, Jane takes the family back to Wyoming in 1868 and struggles her way through various jobs to support her siblings. These jobs, ranging from chef, nurse, waitress, dishwasher, ox driver, dancer, and prostitute, shape her into a jack of all trades. For more reputable and lucrative work, however, Jane sticks to her specialties, shooting and riding. In this endeavor, she becomes a scout for General George Armstrong Custer in the year 1870. During this time, she dons a soldier's uniform, often preferring to dress as a man. Her duties take her southward to put Native Americans in reservations. She boasts that, among her peers, she is the most reckless and assertive rider, as well as one of the best shots in all the West. Between 1872 and 1873, she participates in what is called at the time the Muscle Shell Indian Outbreak. Here, Captain Egan is put in command of the post and his troops, tasked with quelling a Native American uprising. On the way back, he and his men are caught in a large ambush. Jane, riding in the lead, notices the captain fall after being shot, prompting her to turn back and rescue him. In a stunt of bravery, she delivers the fallen captain safely to their fort. Between 1874 and 1875, Jane serves at both Fort Custer and Fort Russell, protecting settlers from Native American attacks. The following year, she is ordered to join Generals Custer, Miles, and Terry at the Bighorn River. There, she is tasked with delivering dispatches to a local outpost, courageously swimming the frigid Platte River to complete her job. This leads to her contracting an illness that keeps her hospitalized for 14 days. Able to ride once more, Jane heads to Fort Laramie.
Not gonna lie, these pictures are really distracting.
On his way to Deadwood, South Dakota. The two have a lot in common, both being heavy drinkers who boast of their achievements. This encounter prompts Jane to stay in Deadwood for a time, during which she has affairs with several men, many being notorious desperados. Jane ultimately earns the nickname Calamity Jane, and there are two theories as to how she became known as a harbinger of disaster. The first suggests that rather than being a calamity herself, she is actually a savior from Calamity for her deed of rescuing her previous captain from that Native American ambush. The other theory comes from the stigma that all of Jane's lovers wind up killed in battle. It is likely that there is truth to both these narratives. According to her own
so
declaration...
I'm gonna pause. So, are you guys getting into anything with Jane? Or, cause you get something with Jane, then you're gonna down the battlefield. But if you don't, then you're gonna live. So, are you doing it, chat? Are you doing it? Comments down below. Let me know. Yes or no. All right, let's get back to it. So, play.
Jane's most famous lover is Wild Bill. Not only do they get along, but they also share in various deadly adventures. Since Wild Bill is known as the champion of the plains,
Billy the
Jane
Kid?
too becomes celebrated as the queen of the plains. As with her other lovers, Wild Bill also meets his end. In August of 1876, Wild Bill gets into an altercation with John McCall, a drunk gambler at the Nuttall and Mann 66 Saloon. Wild Bill, upon seeing McCall down on his luck, gives him money to buy breakfast. Taking this as an insult, McCall returns the following day to find Bill playing cards, sitting with his back exposed. Still inebriated, the drunk takes his opportunity to shoot Bill in the back of the head with his .45 caliber revolver. Bill dies immediately, falling onto the table to reveal his poker hand, a pair of 2 black aces and 8s. Thanks to this assassination, Bill's cards become known as the Dead Man's Hand. McCall
that's where that comes from.
Jane claims to have chased after him, seeking revenge with a meat cleaver. Ultimately, however, McCall is apprehended and put to trial in Deadwood. On the same day as the funeral, McCall attests to shooting Bill because he previously killed McCall's brother back in Kansas, showing no remorse for the crime. As such, McCall is found not guilty and heads to Wyoming a free man, or so he thinks. Less than a month later, he is brought to trial a second time on the basis that his trial in Deadwood, which is considered Native American territory, doesn't count. McCall is eventually found guilty and hanged for murdering Wild Bill. Calamity Jane remains in Deadwood as a mining prospector until the town is struck by smallpox. All for a humble thanks, she nurses many of its victims back to health, impressing even the town's doctor. For every kind deed like this, however, she becomes caught up in dangerous antics, earning the nickname of White Devil of Yellowstone. Continuing to live off her various talents, Jane works as a scout, prospector, and
got a whole lot of
driver
talents
until 1882, when she purchases a ranch on the Yellowstone River. Despite running an inn for a time, Jane remains restless, traveling from California to Texas. In El Paso, she meets a man named Clinton Burke, whom she marries, and in 1887, the two have a baby girl together.
Hometown, baby.
Just like her parents before her, however, Jane keeps traveling with her family, running a hotel in Boulder, Colorado, before crossing through Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and South Dakota.
Dang,
Along
everywhere.
the way, she spreads her life story to anyone willing to listen. To her credit, she backs up these tales by demonstrating her skills in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, performing her shooting on horseback for spectators. She tours Minneapolis, Chicago, St. Louis, and Kansas City, but for every performing gig she lands, she loses it for heavily drinking. The worst case of this comes in 1900, when she is run out of town for drunkenly shooting up a bar and making Irish policemen dance to avoid her bullets. A sham of her former self, Jane returns to the Black Hills and takes refuge at Madame Dora Dufresne's brothel. Here, she earns her keep cooking and doing laundry for the girls. Just months later, though, she finds herself dying in a quaint room near Deadwood. Her final request is that she be buried next to Wild Bill on Mount Moriah. The people of Deadwood honor her wish, holding the largest funeral for a woman in their town to date. The man who closes her coffin happens to be one of the boys she nursed during the smallpox epidemic. Again, it is quite likely that Jane's grandiose achievements were heavily embellished by Jane herself, as very few accounts exist to corroborate her story. Regardless, her exploits are nonetheless recorded into the Throne of Heroes. While legends of Calamity Jane originate from proper human history, an incarnation of her exists within the vast and chaotic world known as the Servantverse. As a heroic spirit, she retains her amazing reputation as an expert marksman and survivalist. She utilizes this skill to become one of the Servantverse's best scouts. While aware of her original heroic exploits, this Jane is ultimately a different entity, looking back on her legend with envy. She is not as profane or alcoholic as her foundation.
Okay, good.
In combat, Jane specializes in sabotage, preferring to disrupt an enemy from afar rather than through direct confrontation. In this endeavor, she fights acrobatically, outmaneuvering enemies and firing back with her pistol and arsenal of grenades. This gun fires both ordinary bullets as well as blasts of energy. She has a pair of pom-poms she uses for cheering on her allies, but in a bind she can use them as punching gloves. Her noble phantasm, Space Dead Man's Hand, the black hand that invites death, takes after her lover's iconic death. It is a bullet engraved with the words "bad luck" that will always aim for the back of a target's head. Even when shot at point blank, this bullet will loop around to an enemy's back and induce visions of the deadly black aces and eights. Jane's amazing talents attract the attention of the secret galactic police, who wish to hire her for a rather harrowing task.
So MP makes total sense.
Accepting the job, Jane is assigned to a special team formed to defeat the primordial goddess, a being from ancient times that threatens to destroy the shining blue galaxy. Among other heroes such as Sigurd, Jane is instrumental to the team for possessing a second noble phantasm, Sentinel Stellaris. O Polar Star, illuminate my enemy. It is an anti-goddess noble phantasm that detects an enemy's weakness and exposes it as an undeniable truth. Conceptually, it derives from her talent in playing cards. As if seeing through an opponent's poker face, she can discern their metaphorical hand, their true intentions. By itself, it does Jane no good, but in tandem with strong allies, it becomes absolutely critical. Jane and Sigurd formulate a strategy, Star 4 card, which combines their noble phantasms to defeat the goddess. Jane illuminates the goddess's weakness, and Sigurd strikes her down with his demonic sword's 10 Suns form. They believe they've saved the galaxy, but only manage to seal the goddess, splitting her spirit core into 2 halves. Before going dormant, however, the goddess curses both Jane and Sigurd with an immortality that can only be revoked through her revival. As a result of this curse, Jane can no longer die, nor can she use her Sentinel Stellaris. Even so, Jane's positive attitude carries her through an entire 2,000 years. Eventually, she encounters Professor Tokiomi, one of the galaxy's last surviving masters. He is researching the primordial goddess, who is long since fallen into myth. Unable to talk Tokiomi out of his dangerous research, Jane instead decides to partner with him to discover the shining blue galaxy's deepest secrets. During these travels, Tokiomi encounters the remains of the goddess's spirit core. The goddess, split into both her benevolent and evil aspects, is excavated by Tokiomi and taken to his home planet Zenjo. Rather than keeping the goddess sealed away, Tokiomi decides to awaken her evil half and raise her as his daughter. It is a risky move that ultimately works out as the young girl, Ishtar, grows up in a loving environment. Jane, however, secretly watches out for Ishtar, observing to make sure the young girl doesn't exhibit the hostility and danger the primordial goddess once had. After Tokiomi's death, Jane and Ishtar become effective allies, exploring the galaxy as a team of bounty hunters. Jane's cheers happen to be the perfect encouragement for Ishtar's doubts and worries. Jane is a happy-go-lucky space cheerleader who marches to the beat of her own drum. She loves new things and doesn't sweat small stuff, to the point of forgetting debts and grudges in as little as a single day.
No debts.
Her optimism prompts her to see the best in others, selflessly cheering for them in lieu of her own exploits. Even as the galaxy falls under threat, she holds hope for the future. Despite this benevolence, her actions come off as far from rational. True to her name, she is destructive, the kind of person who would repair a crumbling bridge by demolishing a house for materials. Throughout 10 years of travel, Jane lets her guard down around Ishtar, no longer fearing the goddess's resurrection. This is a mistake, considering that an evil organization, Space Shinkagiryu, exists in order to revive the goddess using her other half. Its leader, the warrior of darkness Munenori, was actually the one who killed Tokiomi, using it as a chance to abduct the goddess's good side. Sadly, Munenori spends these 10 years raising this half of the goddess to be a malevolent swordsman named Ashtart. Together, they try to reawaken the goddess with the help of Ritsuka Fujimaru, a master they abducted from proper human history. When Ritsuka slips from their grasp, however, Ishtar and Jane meet the stranded master along with mysterious heroine X at the desert planet Texas Beyond. Ishtar, seeking vengeance against the Shinkagiryu, decides to serve as Ritsuka's bodyguard, and Jane comes along for the ride as support. Their journey takes them through great perils across the shining blue galaxy, pitting them against the Shinkagiryu's surprisingly inept 6 blades.
This image.
One of the last of these blades happens to be Sigurd, her partner from long ago. Aboard the Dark Mana, Sigurd reveals Jane's past, wondering why the goddess's killer would be teaming up with one of her two halves. Rather than feeling betrayed, Ishtar understands Jane's predicament, realizing her past doesn't change their current partnership. As such, Jane continues to support Ishtar as she confronts her other half. Despite these efforts, Munenori succeeds at reviving the goddess. But one benefit of doing so is that Jane's curse goes away. While she's returned to being mortal, she also regains use of her Sentinel Stellaris. Following the same strategy from over 2,000 years ago, Jane uses this noble phantasm to reveal the goddess's weakness, allowing a combined attack from Ishtar and Ashtart to destroy the goddess for good. With peace restored to the Servantverse, Jane travels the galaxy unifying the people who were caught up in Space Shinkagiryu's evil scheme. She even continues to support Ishtar in sending Ritsuka back to the world of proper human history. They say farewell under the assumption that they will one day see each other again, and this is effectively accomplished when Ritsuka succeeds at summoning Ishtar and Jane as servants of Chaldea. Through this interdimensional adventure, Calamity Jane is able to put her talents as a gunman and scout to good use as a protector of humanity. It seems this nomadic thrill-seeker, someone without a home or money, plans to stick around at Chaldea longer than normal, happy to have found a master who is unafraid of her intimidating nickname. Of course, she brings along her victory pom-poms, one of the few material gifts she treasures, because they remind her of her countless friends scattered throughout the stars.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense why she has the pom-poms now. It's crazy that I actually pulled her and got her twice, not knowing the history of her, and what she brings.
Thanks for watching.
If you enjoyed
that's gonna be the end of this one, guys. Fate Lore, the tale of Calamity Jane. Yeah. So, westernized. I wonder, was that Billy the Kid that it was talking about when they were saying Billy and he got shot in the back of the head? Oh, that's somebody else. But then it makes sense now that no matter where she shoots the thing, it's literally gonna shoot you in the back of the head. And it says kiss back. Interesting. He has aces and the eights of his hand. Huh. Never knew the origin of that and why it was called Dead Man's Hand. Now I know that now. It's pretty cool. But anyway, guys, let's subscribe to the video. Notification message, click also notify to make future upload, guys. Maybe by talking to Coon. Originally, be sure right down below. Yeah, so without further ado, guys, I'm out. Kiwa.